So our furry feline friends have now figured out how to harness AI for their own nefarious tasks. You can find cats riding around on robot dogs now. So I got completely got by an AI this week. I thought this was just a bird looking at a french fry, then boom. Whoa. I'm gonna explain what was happening there. It was partially real, to my credit, but it's a mix. There's new clips of robots acting unexpectedly around children in China. I ended up watching the movie I, Robot. I know I should have watched it before. It was the very first time with Will Smith, just to try to think about what a world looks like with robots like this interacting with people everywhere. And I don't know if China's way ahead of the curve, but it seems like they just are throwing them out into public and just dealing with it. So we'll see. Well, let me just see how the world's handling robots. All right, so this is a robot running down the street with a bunch of kids. I mean, seems a little unsafe to me, but I'm just trying to get used to a world with humanoid robots. Meta has released a new device, finger gestures from a wristband detector. Is that the future? It might be. It might actually be, I think. Fascinating new model called ASI Arc, and it is completely one of those systems that if it gets out into the wild could just be that takeoff situation. It architects, it updates, it thinks, it creates all new AI models and itself. Double-edged sword. We're going to talk about the power that this thing is tapping into. The fascinating world of gut bacteria, the trillions upon trillions of bacteria that live in us and have completely different DNA than us and create completely different metabolites than us, affect our brain and body in ways that AI is starting to uncover, and the secret language of your gut bacteria is starting to be decoded. So this little guy is eventually going to live in a 3D room, a virtual room. It will grow old with you, and it is the future of Mustafa Sullivan's vision for Microsoft's Copilot. Pretty interesting. Meredith Whittaker she articulated the best version of what I'm worried about. Like the reason why this agentic workflow and privacy is going to butt heads, probably privacy will lose, but she has a great example. I'm going to use it every time somebody else asks me about the future of privacy. It's really fascinating. We'll go through it. There is a new Parkinson's screening tool. It is available to anybody. All you have to do is speak into it, do some tapping. So just your camera, just your voice, 86% accuracy. This is awesome. This means the whole world now has a tool they can use to give them a prediction for the early stages of Parkinson's. And this is the scientific paper published in Nature that breaks it all down, the power behind the tool. Microsoft Research looked internally at 200,000 different prompts of AI tools to increase productivity and did a report. Where is it actually helpful? Where is it saying things that it really shouldn't say? When is it taking an action, and when is it just giving guidance, and when is it just not useful at all? So there's something to learn, because probably this is 6 months ahead of the rest of the world. So this is probably what's going to be happening at whatever company you work at. Check this out. Fully 3D character from 4 2D cameras. This is the new Diffman 4D. It is a model that is pretty freaking impressive. The way it can interpolate is just something I haven't seen before. So I'm gonna show it off. We're gonna dive a little bit deeper into some conversations about consciousness. Obviously, there's the hard problem and the easy problem. But Matthew has some thoughts, and he asks, will neuroscience ever provide a theory of consciousness? Perhaps the hard problem is an obstacle that science just can't get past. Rebecca Bellin is going to be talking about AI companions. Are we in a world where you can love an AI? I mean, people love that grok thing. Is it the evolution of love in a natural way? Is it detrimental? Is it a threat to love? We'll look at it. We'll look at some of the people who, what can I say? They're falling in love with AI. If it has been more than a month since you have thought about either Rome or the mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell, then don't worry, we're going to bring it up today. Mitochondrial insights into the nature of AI. You'd be surprised at the parallel between AI and the powerhouse of the cell. But first, if you want to support the channel, head on over to patreon.com/DylanCurious or hit that join button right here on YouTube. I'm up to 106 members now. Thank you to the 3 of you that signed up just since the last video. So it's been actually really cool to see those emails coming in. So I appreciate the support. Just watching it, being here with me, being part of the community. That's what means the most. So let's dive back into it. So this is clearly the future of robots. It is a robot dog with a cat strapped to it, just, chilling, directing it, taking over the world one day at a time. One commenter says, this is exactly an episode of Love, Death, and Robots. You know what? I never have seen an episode of that show, but it comes up all the time. Is this what you think you guys are talking about? 3 robots, Love, Death, Robots kitten scene?
What do you mean, uh-oh?
Well, I don't want you to panic or anything, but I think you've activated it.
What does that mean?
Well, as I said, I am no expert, but if the noise ever stops, it's going to explode on you.
It is.
If the purring ever stops, it's going to explode on him? Oh, there's Mr. Snuffles. That's what it reminded me of, Rick and Morty episode.
It's pretty bad, Emperor Snowball. We're going to need to do another operation.
Oh yeah, Emperor Snowball.
It's pretty bad, Emperor Snowball. We're going to need to do another operation.
Anything for my precious Morty.
Snowball is better than we deserve. And this cat, I don't know. All right, so I was scrolling my feed. I saw this bird, and I was like, you're probably going to hurt your beak trying to get to that French fry. And then, boom, look at that. I was like shocked. And it did not instantly click to me that it was AI. I was like, what kind of window is that? How did that bird get through? I don't get it. Then, of course, 20 seconds later, I'm like just looking at the comments. This AI is insane. AI. And I just wanted to bring up the fact that now we're in this world where sometimes it is AI, but the whole thing isn't generated, because you have to understand, and most people don't know this, VO3 allows you to put in a frame at the beginning and a frame at the end, and it will AI interpolate in between. So in theory, if you want to take a 45-minute presentation, like a speech from the president or something, and just one sentence you want fake, you could theoretically take the first frame and last frame, cut out, 10 seconds from the clip, and then program it or then prompt it to say, make him say this or that, right? And then that little piece could fit in almost seamlessly. So there's a moment here where the frame just becomes AI when the glass breaks in a way that's not normal. And it's, sort of noticeable, but just be ready, because everything being AI might not be the world. It might be 1% AI, 3% AI, 20% AI, and mostly real. And it's going to just throw us off if we're not ready for it. All right, these are some robots acting a fool up in China. So you can see this one gets stuck on this little girl's foot. I mean, I guess it's good that kids get used to robots. Obviously, it's good to get acclimated to the future with all this stuff coming. But on the other hand, that robot's made of like real metal and hard plastic and could swing one of those arms and hit that kid. So I don't know. I don't know if it feels like they should be that close and interacting yet. But then again, I don't want to be somebody who's just hiding from these things the whole time and everything needs to be so safe. I understand we live in a world where maybe these things need to learn and grow and be out there with us in a way where we're kind of used to them and we make mistakes early on before things really do get out of hand. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts below if you're ready for this or not. Like, do you want to see more humanoid robots at the stage they are now, hanging out in hotel rooms? What's this one doing? Bathrobe or something? Just chilling, taking off its slippers, laying down for a little nap. I have fallen asleep like that, so I get it. All right, let's talk about these new Meta wristbands that track your hands. I think this makes way more sense than I expected. So I never even got into an Apple Watch. For a while, I used the Oura Ring. I thought that was a really neat thing for just health tracking. But if there is a future that I can kind of imagine with AR glasses, using and interacting fairly seamlessly with the real world, I think I could get used to a wristband on both my right and left arms. And when I want to grab something in the virtual world, some kind of cue, like okay with this hand, and then I can grab things in virtual reality, move them around, then let go, and then I'm back in the real world, something like that. So I think this is actually pretty neat. And with AI being able to make some predictions about your fingers and putting those connections into a virtual world, I wonder. I've been really wrong about a lot of stuff though, so I don't know if you should trust me. I thought 3D TVs were going to be like huge in 2015. I'm wrong a lot. And I used the Vision Pro. I couldn't afford it. I don't own one, but I went to the Apple store and like did a demo, and it felt like moving things around kind of with pinching and pulling was the right attempt. They had like a Jurassic Park experience in that thing, which was like very cool. But I didn't buy one. I didn't need it that bad. I don't know how it'd make me more productive. So we'll see. All right, so this is a model you should know about. It is ASI ARC, and yeah, as described in the article, it is a double-edged sword of self-improving AI. That's a good way to put it. This is a breakthrough AI system that can autonomously invent, build, and test new AI architectures. It removes humans as a bottleneck, so that to me is pretty scary. That's what it is when these systems get out of control. They invent a new way to do something. They can measure themselves. If it works, they can upgrade their own code and become that. And then that new version can go ahead and test. And to me, it feels like the beginning of how something kind of gets out of hand. Some people are hailing it as the AlphaGo moment for AI design. It's really a trio of agents. There's an engineer, an analyst, and a researcher, and they're all kind of looped together in this continual way. But so far, in what they reported in this paper, it did 1,800 experiments on different AI architecture. It created over 100 high-performing models from that. It even uncovered an empirical scaling law. More GPUs directly led to more discoveries. So you can just push this thing and push this thing. Now, one reason why I'm not completely scared of it, this doesn't seem like the kind of system on its own that right now is going to get out of control. And that's that, and this is across the board sort of a problem a lot of the AI models have, is that there isn't really good long-term planning. There's a problem when you just keep thinking about something. You tend to actually just double down and amplify flaws. It's not like that kind of loose general thinking that it needs to be. So adding more inference is actually making the performance worse in this system. So it doesn't just scale off into infinity right now. But the evolutionary nature of it is really weird, because you can have a system that says, okay, I just invented this thing. It looks like it's performing better. I will now become that thing. And there could be something problematic in there. Maybe you were measuring for certain elements that make you feel safe, but there was something unsafe in there that you forgot to measure, and it just keeps evolving over time. So there's hidden behavioral biases that might be in these things because you can't test for everything at all times. In some cases, this model was, in a sense, secretly teaching preferences to another model without humans understanding at first. So it could be spitting out a bunch of stuff that looks like garbage to us, but if it's the right architecture, talking to the right architecture, that garbage actually has information about preferences or subliminal learning. That's a thing to really worry about. So this is the ASI ARC evolutionary tree. I mean, pretty fascinating. The architectural phylogenetic tree that it defined through its parent-child relationship with the new architecture. So yeah, just something else to be aware of. Next up, let's talk about our microbiome. I've been like obsessed with the microbiome many times in the past. It's just, I personally think that's one of the keys to how I feel when I'm eating a lot of fiber, when the gut bacteria in my body is right. I just tend to wake up better. I slept better. I have better circadian rhythm. It feels like I'm more energetic. It makes it easier for me to avoid fast food. And I'm convinced that it's kind of this frontier, right? There is so many bacteria in our body. There is way more DNA in those bacteria than there is in the body of us from our human DNA cells. We don't know what all of that does. And then even if we do, there's the multiplication factor of the different types, the many combinations, the metabolites that they make. But that's also the right kind of problem for a tool like artificial intelligence. It finds needles in haystacks. It makes correlations in seemingly impossible ways. So I was excited to read in SciTech Daily that AI decodes the secret language of your gut bacteria. Scientists at the University of Tokyo have developed an AI tool called VBase-MM to better understand the complex interactions between gut bacteria and chemical compounds that they produce. These gut microbes outnumber human cells and influence everything from digestion to mood. Traditional methods have struggled to map the relationship between specific bacteria and metabolites, so researchers used a Bayesian neural network to analyze this massive data set. This AI can highlight important bacterial contributors to the human health and identify patterns, even in complicated conditions like sleep disorders and cancer. Now, one of the most interesting things about this model that they invented is that it doesn't just give overconfident answers. It's one of the few models, which, more of them are starting to do this. It's kind of the new frontier. I would imagine GPT-5 and the next version of Claude have this, but it accounts for uncertainty in its prediction. So that means that it avoids overconfident errors. It won't say this caused that. It'll say, I think this caused this, or I'm very confident, or it's an outside chance, but my best guess is. That is really a great way to communicate to a scientist. That is a great way to communicate to people. It does that. It distinguishes between meaningful biological relationships and noise with confidence. And this lays the groundwork to all sorts of medical treatments. I think we find people that are healthy. I know there's a bacteria called Akromansia that is highly associated with people who are skinny and healthy. And when you don't have much of it, it becomes easier to become overweight. And there's probably a whole cascading effect about that bacteria. And if you have none in your body, you just are missing out. And if you put it in there through a probiotic, there's no guarantee that it's going to make it. So if we can get this all figured out, there are ways to repopulate the gut in the proper way. And maybe there's just a certain combination where we could reset like all Americans who wanted to be, and they could just have bodies that were much better, and you would eat fiber and they would stay that way. It would be amazing. Next up, take a gander at this little guy. I don't know if you think he's as cute as Clippy, but Microsoft's AI CEO, Mustafa Sullivan, one of the creators of DeepMind originally, said that this is kind of the future we should expect. So more specifically, he has a vision of Copilot that involves it being highly personalized and that it will, quote, age. Microsoft has been increasingly pushing Copilot as a personal AI assistant. But now Copilot will certainly have a kind of permanent identity, a presence, and it will have a room that it lives in. Like we're talking a virtual 3D room, like I guess kitchen and couch, or who knows what it wants in that room. Suleiman said that he's really interested in this idea of digital patina. By the way, I didn't know what that was, in case you don't either, but digital patina refers to the visual and sometimes interactive representation of a digital product's usage history, mimicking the way physical objects accumulate wear and tear over time. What are you talking about? What do you mean wear and tear? And that's exactly what he says. The things I love in my world are things that are a little bit worn or rubbed down and have scuff marks. Unfortunately, in the digital world, they don't have a sense of age. So yeah, this little guy, I guess, like what? Is he going to get bags under his eyes? Is he going to get some wrinkles? Is he going to get jaded after a long day of work? Like, oh, I've been doing this stuff for you for so long. Can't we do something else? Maybe, honestly, maybe that's what would make people connect with it and use it the most. So maybe this little happy guy gets worn down. There he is smiling. There he's like super smiling, laughing, turns into a heart. Oh my gosh, goes a little too far. Can't believe he showed he was a heart. Gasps. Suleiman says he wants a quieter, simpler, optimized work environment and that he's thinking about improving his workshop in the future. I look at my screen and I'm like, man, I have a billboard in front of me. It's just so noisy, so neon, and it's all competing for my attention. It just looks so ugly. I hate my desktop, he says. I mean, I get that. I try to hide some stuff too. I need my Zen space. Let's have a listen to Meredith Whitaker. She has a really clear example of something that a lot of us would want an AI to do and why that gives basically all your privacy away if you want to exchange it for this one tool.
Introduction of this sort of notion of agentic AI into our devices and lives, in part because what we're doing is giving so much control to these systems that are going to need access to data. The value add is something like can look up a concert, book a ticket, schedule it in your calendar, and message all your friends that it's booked, right? So what would it need to do that? Well, it would need access to our browser, an ability to drive that. It would need our credit card information to pay for the tickets. It would need access to our calendar, everything we're doing, everyone we're meeting. It would need access to Signal to open and send that message to our friends. And it would need to be able to drive that across our entire system with something that looks like root permission. Accessing every single one of those databases probably in the clear, because there's no model to do that encrypted. And if we're talking about a sufficiently powerful model, AI model that's powering that, there's no way that's happening on device, even though on device isn't a prophylactic, isn't going to really solve a lot of those issues. that's almost certainly being sent to a cloud server where it's being processed and sent back. So there's a profound issue with security and privacy that is haunting this sort of hype around agents, and that is ultimately threatening to break the blood-brain barrier between the application layer and the OS layer by conjoining all of these separate services, muddying their data, and doing things like undermining the privacy of your signal messages because, hey, the agent's got to get in, the agent's got to text your friends, the agent's got to pull the data out of your text and got to summarize that so that, again, your brain can sit in a jar and you're not doing any of that yourself. You're doing something else. So I think we need to be really...
Okay, so it was that idea that it has to have root access, the way she said it, that seems so real to me. I've been working with, what's the new operator called? Like, anyways, ChatGPT operator, but the one that has the deep research from last week. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't want it to have root access to everything on my computer. So it can spin up an operating system. I don't want to log into my personal stuff on it yet. I just don't know why, but it doesn't feel right to just scan it all. And then how do I get work done? Because it's not going to make any emails for me. It's not going to know my stuff. So I have to selectively like choose what I put in it. And by that point, I might as well just do the tasks myself. I mean, not every one of them, but this is a profound issue. And probably most of us are eventually going to just relent and say, oh, I just prefer the convenience, but it will be everything. And like Sam Altman also said this week, that if you're using ChatGPT as a therapist, be aware of like those messages are being logged. They are not protected like the way talking to a real therapist would. They can be subpoenaed. Who knows if it's training on them or not? I mean, supposedly not, but you never know. And it's out there. And then, yeah, once one of these things does get root access, it's logged into all of your emails and your private accounts. And it's going to need to be, because it's going to be doing things for you. It's all going to come together. The AI can easily put all of that together, and someone else who can prompt inject it could probably get access to that too. So I don't know. I don't really see a way around it. I just don't. I hope there's something that comes up. Maybe some cases where you keep something offline or don't let an AI touch it. You just always do it manually for protection. It's going to be a separate system. All right, let's talk about this new Parkinson's disease testing system. Really fascinating use of AI. It is called a novel fusion architecture for detecting Parkinson's disease using semi-supervised speech embeddings. Now, this study introduces a cutting-edge system for detecting PD using short speech samples. So specifically, participants are able to just say a sentence, right? Like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, and then it will give out some kind of risk score. So researchers analyzed over 1,800 recordings from 1,306 people using advanced deep learning models, and they fused features from these models to a project-based method, which significantly improved the performance over traditional machine learning techniques to the point where this model achieved 88.9% accuracy. It predicted across sexes, ethnicities, age groups. The team even built a web app that lets anybody with a webcam and a mic do a quick PD scanning. That's very cool. That means anybody in the world can now get a test like this. It is, something that people who have very little access to anything, but if they have a phone, webcam, this is doable. All right, welcome to Park. You will be asked to record yourself performing a series of tasks. Remember, this is not a diagnostic tool, it is a screening tool.
For this task, you will make the most disgusted face that you can, alternating with a neutral face. Repeat this 3 times slowly. So for example, this task, you'll be asked to read out loud 2 sentences that will be displayed to you on the following page. While completing the task, make sure that your face is visible in the recording frame.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The dog wakes up and follows the fox into the forest, but again, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
For this task, you will say the phrase "ee" for as long as possible until you run out of breath. For this task, you'll repeat the following tongue twister 5 times as quickly as possible. Fresh French fried fly fritters. So for example, fresh French fried fly fritters, fresh French fried fly fritters,
Fresh French fried fly fritters. 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 Fresh French fried fly fritters.
Extend your left arm out in front of you and flip your palm back and forth 10 times as quickly and as fully as possible. So for example,
For 1 minute, please describe a recent book you have read or a movie or a TV show you have watched for the entire minute. If you finish before 60 seconds, please describe another book, movie, or TV show.
Last night I watched a movie called I, Robot. It starred Will Smith. It touched on what the future might be like with robots everywhere in our society. The storyline revolves around one robot that had to be held liable for a crime that he committed, and it slowly unveils that the person who secretly wanted it to escape had some ideas about how the world needed to be protected and the rest of the world wouldn't understand, and it kind of brings all that together in a accumulation to where there's a big fight scene at the end where they crawl all the way up this giant building, and then Will Smith and this woman fight them off and finally inject this thing to destroy the main controller of all the AI systems, and I guess humanity has been saved. Okay, so I thought I was doing a screening and I was gonna get some kind of a result at the end, but on closer inspection, it looks like I just was contributing data to help them improve the model. I guess not the worst use of my time, but I was kind of hoping to get a result. But anyway, I guess some people out there get results. All right, moving on. Let's go to this Microsoft paper. This is talking about working with AI, measuring the occupational implications of generative AI. Now, I think it's worth covering because the way Microsoft is, they've been pushing it onto their employees much faster than the average organization. But where it took root and where it didn't is probably similar to a lot of other industries out there. This is an anonymized 200,000 users asking AI chats to do things. Now, the team classified both the user's goals and the AI's actions, the work types, the activities, and then how often these tasks were successfully completed, along with how broadly they were applied across jobs. And the big twist, I guess, is that it kind of sucked overall. 40% of people who chatted with an AI and asked it to do something got a result where it did something completely different from what the user's true goal was. For example, they might ask it to go out and do something when it really just teaches or educates or coaches instead of taking an action. And of course, it was also applied way more to marketing and some of the writing jobs inside of Microsoft than to the more physical labor jobs. But the main point is the tools just aren't given enough freedom to go out there and actually execute much yet. 40% of the time it didn't. 60% of the time it did. And a lot of time is at Microsoft that was writing code, that was producing something written or coded. Not all companies are going to be able to use that much. So I would say it's probably going to be more like 60 or 70% at the average company that's not software development based. Sometimes you just got to take this into account that we're not quite as far as it feels like it in some ways where it's actually disrupting the economy. I forgot to put this on screen before. All right, you guys are going to love this. Diffuman 4D. So here's what we got going on. 4 cameras that are not 3D cameras taking video of somebody moving around, so it captures all 4 sides of them. Then the AI model puts it all together. This is how good it is. That is a 3D model. You could zoom around her. You could watch her from any angle, that even all of the angles that weren't recorded by the camera, and it looks that crisp in all the ways. This was this long Volo cap. I guess this was the state of the art until this model. And look at how just chunky and degraded and pieced up it is. It doesn't seem to stay coherent. It's sort of staticky. And then this model just cleans that all up. So what you're looking at here is me controlling the angle. Like I have full control. This could be in a 3D headset, a VR environment. You could be walking around her. And it was all captured in flat 2D images originally. Here we have Snow White. You want to go visit a Disney princess in the future of virtual Disneyland parks. Well, there she is. And you can imagine a lot of people could just come up with 4 iPhones, capture somebody from all 4 angles and do concerts and Instagram influencers probably in the future and all sorts of new ways to interact with the audience. All right, let's get into some interesting opinions here. This is Matthew, published on Medium. Will neuroscientists ever provide a theory of consciousness? Perhaps the hard problem is an obstacle that science can't get past. So if you're looking at that on screen, I know you clearly can see that it is a rabbit. It is pointed to the right, and these are the rabbit's ears. Oh, or do you see duckbill beaks and the eyes facing that direction? Well, your brain can handle one or the other, pretty much not both at the same time. It is one of those funky things in the way that our brains work. This article explores whether neuroscientists will ever crack the mystery of consciousness. Now, there are some theories that it might be closer to the cortex. It's traditionally believed to be more in the neocortex, this more advanced frontal part of our brain, meaning, humans, since we have more of it, we're more conscious than other animals, and you kind of scale it down. There's a neuroscientist named Mark Solms who believes that it's in the brain stem itself. Consciousness is around and even the smallest, lowest kind of level life that has a brain stem. And you know what? One day neuroscientists might put it all together and figure that out. But that is still called the easy problem. That is also extremely hard. It is kind of impossible to put all these puzzle pieces together in today's environment, but one day it's at least feasible. The hard problem of consciousness is, why does it feel like something once all those puzzle pieces come together? Why they could all just work, put them together and they could work, but not need to feel themselves as a thing in the universe that is conscious, that feels like it makes decisions, that's on top of all those puzzle pieces. Like, why does the sum become greater than the parts and consciousness emerges? That might not ever be describable because the scientific method doesn't really go into that kind of territory. How and why do we have subjective experiences? Why does it arise from physical brain processes? And it might just not be solvable. It could stem from a fundamental mismatch between how we describe the brain scientifically and how we experience consciousness. And there was one part in here that was pretty fascinating. There have been things in the past that seemed like they described the world, and then the world just moved on. He's kind of got this theory that maybe that's going to happen with consciousness. We all talk about it like, why is that conscious? Why are we conscious? Is the universe conscious? Maybe in 50, 100 years, it's just not a question. We just say that's just not explainable. It's more like spaghetti monster stuff. It's nonsensical. And there is no hard problem of consciousness. There's only the easy one. It gets solved, and that's the end of the story. But now let's talk about love, because conscious beings love to be in love. Is AI companions a threat to love or an evolution of it? Rebecca Bellin weighs in. Today, more than 20% of daters are reporting using AI for things like crafting dating profiles or sparking conversations. But now some are taking it further by forming emotional bonds, including romantic relationships with AI companions. Look, Grok has a $40 upgrade, so you can phasically date an anime avatar. People are honestly falling for it. Like, I'm not even judging. Go for it if you want. But there's a lot of people falling for them, like literally falling in love with them, falling for them emotionally. As the article points out, millions of people around the world are using AI companions from companies like Replica, Character AI, Gnome AI, including 72% of US teens. Some people have even reported falling in love with more general LLMs like ChatGPT. Oh, falling in love to hate ChatGPT, I don't know. I might have a relationship with it that's deep, but it's not. I don't think it's not love. I don't know. It is powerful. I guess I love it. I don't know. I've never thought about if I love ChatGPT or not. Now I feel guilty saying I don't, but who knows? Article points out something important. How can you love something you can't trust? That is a good question. I mean, plenty of people do fall in love with people they can't trust, and we know how that often ends. But yeah, at the end of the day, as much as it feels like ChatGPT is something that's here with me, it's not It's not going to have an oxytocin experience the same way I am. It's not going to feel the same. It's not contained in a brain that's inside of a body, a biological body that doesn't communicate with OpenAI servers and is not owned by a company. But as more people interact with AI companions, the boundaries between real human relationships and machine simulations are getting fuzzier. While some psychologists have celebrated AI's capacity to provide non-judgmental, consistent emotional support, others warn that real love needs unpredictability, touch, and trust that machines just can't offer. Maybe yet, maybe never. Trust, eventually robots will probably be able to simulate the unpredictability. They'll probably be able to, be robotic and touch. Trust, though, that one might be truly elusive. I mean, maybe an AI has all hardware built into the physical embodiment, and you can trust it because there's firewalls and everything else, and it's not owned by a company or something, or you buy it and own all rights to it. But yeah, I don't know about trust. That one would really take a lot to convince me. But some people argue that promoting what love actually feels like, whether it's emotional, it's mutual, it's still love, and people crave it, and it can provide that. So, good for them, I guess. I'm not hating. I know it sounded that way. Maybe it will be for me one day. I'm just not there yet. I don't want to hate on anyone for it because there are lonely people and maybe it is healthy. It's a slippery slope, be careful. The potential of touch in VR and also connected with AI is huge. The tactile technologies that are being developed are actually booming. Oh, wow. Side note, I wasn't prepared, but this just clicked. Tesla signs $16.5 billion deal with Samsung. Samsung's giant new Texas fab will be dedicated to making Tesla's new generation AI 6 chips. Wow. By the way, on a side note, I listened to a great podcast this week that was breaking down just how fast the system behind Grok scaled. The Memphis supercluster or whatever, 1 and 2, and then there was already the big Tesla one, and they're all coming together even faster than any of the analysts thought was possible. It does feel like Grok might run away with this. If it's just about raw compute, something about the way Elon works, having the money obviously, but it's just happening in a way that Meta and Microsoft and Oracle, these companies, they're just not keeping up with Elon. And if it's just off to the races and it's all about execution, I got a feeling that Grok might be the winner. I've usually stuck with Google, but I'm starting to feel a little different when I just see how fast they're scaling up over there. All right, let's talk about the mitochondria. Don't get too caught off guard, but the powerhouse of the cell is back, center of attention. There are insights into the nature of AI when we think about it, and that's sort of fascinating. You'll be surprised at the parallels between AI and the powerhouse of the cell. Oh, will we? One alternative view. Actually, we will. So this thought-provoking piece draws striking parallels between the mitochondria and artificial intelligence. It compares the ancient symbiosis between mitochondria and their host cells to the evolving relationship between humans and AI, and I loved every word in this. The essay explores how both have the power to enhance complexity, enable growth, and even influence existential trajectories, like the creation of sexes and possibly of unalivingness. From energy generation to societal impact, AI is cast as modern counterpart to mitochondria, offering power, demanding compatibility, and potentially holding the kill switch if the coherence is lost. So let me just remind you, in case you're one of the few people out there that probably don't know, the mitochondria was its own evolutionary cell. And the human cell was, it wasn't human back then, but there were two cells and they were existing separately. They got in a fight, one tried to eat the other, and somehow the mitochondria ended up inside the other. It has its own DNA. It was its own thing. And it was like, hey, instead of digesting me, I could help you out. Why don't we just stay together for 3 or 4 billion more years and populate the planet with animals and all this stuff. So mitochondria is just fascinating. It's got this symbiotic relationship, meaning they get together and they both work together. And if we think about AI as something we invented and then it does something and it changes us and we upgrade ourselves, and upgraded humans now make better AI, maybe that's it. Maybe we end up being the mitochondria that sits inside of this cell and we just evolve together for a long, long time. And the better it does, the better we do. And this is sort of the answer to the way to think about an aligned future, something where we're both symbiotically connected to each other. The AI is going to keep wanting to upgrade us because the more we get upgraded, the more we help it. So we persist in the coherence because it doesn't make sense to break off. We don't do better without each other. So it's not survival of the fittest where we're competing. We somehow are engulfed in it. So it's not about dominance or utility. It's about the bond. And if the bond falters, then we get extinction. And finally, just to get wild and build off that, let's talk about entropy and language. So it's written by Karl Birkhoff. Karl Birkhoff. It is called The Soft Architecture of Meaning, Language Against Entropy. Definitely got me thinking a little bit different about how language just is this unifying tool that actually fights entropy. Entropy is a measure of disorder. And if you think about it, there's a language inside of us. Our DNA is not that much different than the ABCs that we make up with the English language. It is a structure, it persists, it has instructions on how to build us, and in one weird way, it is defying thermodynamics. Which then leads you to the question, does a book that's written that contains facts also fight entropy? And it kind of does. This article argues that language isn't just a tool humans use. It may be a deep psychological necessity for complex systems to function. Language allows systems like brains, DNA, artificial intelligence to symbolically represent and manipulate ideas, plans, or even falsehoods, which enable anticipation, creativity, transformation, and prediction. To predict something, you have to have a pattern that is defying entropy, which is just a wild thought. So symbolic language might give structure to energy, meaning you use energy to keep something in an ordered way. Like you have to put energy into writing a book and putting all the letters in the right way. You have to put energy into the body to make a child, and it has to copy the DNA. You have to put energy into making a copy of a book, or even to duplicate something digital. Somewhere there still has to be some ones and zeros moving back and forth and electricity to do that. So symbolic thought gives structure to energy. So think about that. When you have a thought, you're taking energy in the form of food and oxygen. You're having a thought, which is like a structured anti-entropy moment. It's so crazy to think about it that way. But yeah, you're helping life and intelligence resist the natural drift towards entropy, but it always comes at a cost. Every bit of information stored or maintained requires energy, meaning that even false or hypothetical ideas have real thermodynamic prices. So the most fascinating thing is that language doesn't reflect reality. We didn't get language and then start describing reality. It's the language that shapes it. Right? The language is the persistent thing. The entropy is all around us, falling apart. The eggs are breaking. They're not going back together. The cream is going into the coffee, spreading out. It's not going the other way. But when you have a vision for the future, when you go to shape it, when DNA has a vision for what a biological life looks like, when AI has essentially a vision, a pattern that it's going to make a prediction of, it's kind of like a cognitive credit card. It's enabling a system to explore and evolve beyond their current state. This positions language itself as a powerful entropy-defying force in the universe. Patreon.com/Dylan Curious, or hit that join button right here on YouTube. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to read them all. Love to learn from you guys, and we will see you in the next video.